So let's jump right into history being made on Wednesday night. And I told you that we're going to keep talking about this because it's something worth talking about. Now, 61 may seem like a number, but it is a standard when it comes to baseball. It is the standard when it comes to American League home runs specifically. And on Wednesday, September 28th, with a line drive bullet to left center field, Aaron Judge tied Roger Maris. 61 years after Roger Maris hit 61, Aaron Judge did the same thing and became the all-time leader in the American League. Now, some don't get too hung up on league leaders when it comes to home runs, and some have argued, even Roger Maris' son, Roger Maris Jr., has argued that if Judge hits 62, that should be the home run record. Now, we've discussed on here, Barry Bonds has the home run record at 73. Steroids or no steroids, he hit 73 home runs. I'm not here to debate that, but I'm here to give you a little history lesson on 61 and why it is so important. In 1961, that year specifically, baseball expanded from 54 games to 162 game schedule, which led to controversy for Roger Maris because they thought that if he broke Babe Ruth's record, who was the standard bearer for home run hitters, in more games than the Babe had, well, then that's not fair. And we know the story, right? For 30 years, there was an asterisk placed next to Roger Maris' 61. And in 1991, that finally came down, 5 years after Maris' death. To get technical on you, Judge hit his 61st home run in the 155th game. So technically, Babe's record still kind of stands in a way, right? He's the only person in 154 games to hit 60 home runs, which, in an article that we'll be publishing on DSN by yours truly later, was more than every team in 1927 than all but three clubs. The Cubs, the Cardinals, and the New York Giants, as well as obviously the New York Yankees, all had over 60 home runs that season. Every other team in the league did not. He was out-homering baseball clubs at that time. But we love home runs, but home runs are only part of this story for Aaron Judge because he's currently on pace to win the Triple Crown, as we've mentioned before, which would, in essence, be a huge, monumental, historic moment because the last person, the person to have the most home runs in a Triple Crown season is Mickey Mantle in 1956, who hit 52. So Judge not only is tying and potentially or going to break the American League home run record, but if he wins the Triple Crown, he will also be in a class all by himself as far as Triple Crown winners go. And he's doing something special. Bob Nightingale on Twitter last night asked how much of a pure hitter has Aaron Judge become? Well, when he hit 52 home runs in 2017, he had 54 more strikeouts than hits. This season, he has 5 fewer strikeouts than hits right now. It's important to note that Aaron Judge is not just an all-or-nothing guy. He's got a .314 average. He's driven in 130 runs on the season so far. And he leads the American League in average, home runs, and RBIs, the 3 Triple Crown categories. Whether you value those stats or not, it's still an important accomplishment. And he's also a free agent at the end of the season. But for as great as he's been, it's going to be, and you're going to be very hard-pressed to find teams that pay him for an MVP season that he had that wasn't for them, if that makes any sense. Judge is going to be 31 when he comes up to spring training. April 26th, I believe, is his birthday. He's going to be looking for a payday, and he's going to be looking for a lengthy payday. Dan Szymborski from Fangraphs, he kind of projected this out according to Zips, and he said that according to Zips, it would give him a projection of like a 7 to 8 year at $280 to $290 million. Which, when I was thinking about, okay, I know that there was an article written from DSN of what it would cost to bring the Judge to Detroit. You got to get creative because you're not going to offer him a 10-year contract. You're not going to pay him till you're 41. You've already done that with Miguel Cabrera. Now, Szymborski will say that the projections for Zips are actually more favorable to Judge than they were for Pujols or Cabrera when they signed their major deals, but they're still not 61 home runs worth of projections. Okay? My thought is if you want to bring Judge into a team, you sign him to a 5-year deal that potentially could turn into 8 years with the total money if he makes the 8 years being $300 million. That gives him an average annual value at $37.5 million. The first 5 years, fully guaranteed, pay him till he's 36. In year 6, make it a mutual option between the club and the player. If he wants to test free agency one more time, let him test it. If not, then he plays at the 6th year. For year 7 and year 8, you give him vesting options for benchmarks throughout the season that will make his contract vest for year 7. And then make it vest for year 8. Now, the numbers can be fudged, but basically what you're getting is a guy on an 8-year contract for $37.5 million, which would be team-friendly. And we know that the contracts have kind of been screwed up with the way that Correa signed his in the offseason. But if the Tigers are going to make some kind of play, it's going to have to get creative in that sense because you cannot sign a guy like this for 10 years. It's got to be 5 to 8. Pay him only once average annual salary. That doesn't matter. Front load it, back load it, it doesn't matter. But you got to get creative, and you got to find a way to get out of the bad contracts at the end of them if they aren't working out for you. Not fully guaranteed. Now, that's going to be difficult, and it's going to be a hard sell, but it could be something that potentially could happen. Aaron Judge is having a great season. Will he hit 61? Or he already hit 61. Will he hit 62? I mean, odds are that he's going to get there. With about 7 games left to play, I got to imagine he's going to hit at least 1 home run. And last week I even projected that he'd end up at like 65 home runs. So it's going to be interesting to see, and it's definitely a storyline that I'm going to continually be following. I stayed up last night to just see if he hit 62 in his final at-bat, but he didn't. And that's okay, because at some point he's going to. And it's going to be fun to watch.